The U.S. Supreme Court made a monumental decision that will impact every courtroom in the state of Oregon by banning non-unanimous jury verdicts. Prior to Monday's ruling, Oregon was the only state that allowed juries to be divided. In every other state, a felony criminal conviction required a unanimous verdict. But in Oregon, a defendant could still be convicted if one or two jurors disagreed with the rest of the jury.
How do you prove beyond a reasonable doubt if one or two people don't even agree?
Alyssa Kaplan, director of the Criminal Justice Reform Clinic, explained the Oregon law approved in 1934 had its roots in racial prejudice by allowing white jurors to make the votes of a few minorities meaningless.
When it became a different kind of issue, not just legally, but historically, I think it caused a lot of people to really rethink it in a different way or consider it.
There's widespread agreement among defense lawyers and prosecutors in Oregon that the law was deeply flawed and may have sent innocent people to prison.
It should have been changed a long, long time ago.
Brad Holbrook spent more than 6 years in prison before his case was overturned. He was wrongly convicted by a non-unanimous jury.
It's extremely frustrating. I mean, it's, anybody who gets convicted of less than unanimous jury verdict, in my mind, is not convicted.
The ruling will immediately affect all cases going forward, including defendants whose appeals are still working their way through the courts. What's not clear, what will happen to thousands of old cases where defendants were convicted by a split jury. Previously, Oregon's Attorney General had warned that striking down non-unanimous verdicts could require new trials in hundreds, if not thousands of cases. NBC News correspondent Pete Williams covers the Supreme Court.
So for people who were previously convicted and their cases closed, they'll now have to go back to court and seek to reopen their cases. And it's not a settled question whether a Supreme Court decision like this applies retroactively. You would think it would, but usually it doesn't.
Oregon's Attorney General, along with prosecutors, defense lawyers, and civil rights advocates, called the Supreme Court decision good news, an important change to the state's unusual split verdict system.
All right, so let's bring in Kyle Aboshi now. And Kyle, I mean, for obvious reasons, our focus has been on Oregon, but this actually stems from a Louisiana case.
Right. This case actually focuses on a Louisiana man who was facing a life sentence after being convicted by a jury on a 10-2 count. At the time, Louisiana and Oregon were the only states in the country that allowed for a split verdict. Then it went to the U.S. Supreme Court. In the meantime, Louisiana changed its law. So by the time that the U.S. Supreme Court offered an opinion on this, it only applied to Oregon.
Wow. All right. And all this time, I mean, prosecutors and defense attorneys have agreed that this law should change. So what took so long?
Yeah, this issue actually came before the state legislature just last year and had strong support from both prosecutors and the defense. Ultimately, after some debate and hopes of sending it to the voters, it died in the Senate.
All right. Kyle Aboshi for us. Kyle, thank you very much.